industry, their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders, because they would, like a computer, people are like computers, all you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations who are all getting the same uploads, upgrades.
And Allen Dulles and the CIA plucked Armaz, who's a puppet, there's no other word for it. He was nobody. He was not a factor in Guatemalan politics, and he was not in the country, and he didn't have a following. He hadn't lost big elections by a narrow majority, anything like that. They plucked him and put him in power. They ousted our BENZ.
At the same time, along certain paths. Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbors and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind.
Put Armaz in power now, and said, sign this sweetheart deal with United Fruit. Now, we find out in history, read the book Bitter Fruit by Schlesinger. Henry Cabot Lodge, our ambassador to the United Nations at that time,
who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them.
personal stock in United Fruit Company. John Lodge, the Assistant Secretary of State for Inter-American Affairs, had personal stock holdings in United Fruit Company. John Lodge's brother was the president of United Fruit Company. John Foster Dulles was the senior advisor of the law firm that advised the Schlafly Bank.
They've been programmed, and I'm sad because I know that it's hard for people like that to take an interest, a serious interest in world affairs, to take a serious interest in what their elected officials are doing, and they're not going to be really inclined to study or discover the deception.
Not only was the bank, primary bank in Philadelphia, to launder CIA money, it also held papers on the IRCA, which is the Guatemalan Railroad that was owned by the United Fruit Company, and Allen Dulles, the CIA director.
Serious interest in world affairs, to take a serious interest in what their elected officials are doing, and they're not going to be really inclined to study or discover the deception that's being used against them. And so I'm sad because I see all of that in a flash in my mind as being an indication of how easy it is
was also a member of that same law firm.
Have you read it?
So, to defend this nation. Now, in addition to which, our BENZ He was not a communist. He didn't have a single communist in his government, in his cabinet. None. And so they told us it was a communist threat to our national security interest. And
I see all of that in a flash in my mind as being an indication of how easy it is for the masses to be manipulated.
But you know, I saw this movie last year called Basic Instinct. Okay, now, Bill's quick capsule review.
so the bullshit goes on. Now Nicaragua is a threat to our national security interest. The problem, though, I think, is that the American people are becoming much more sophisticated and aware. They remember the credibility gap in Vietnam and the Bay of Tonkin and the lies and bullshit.
Piece of shit. Okay, now. Yeah. End of story, by the way. Don't get caught up in that fevered, hyped, phony fucking debate about that piece of shit movie. Is it too sexist? And what about the movies? No, you're just confused. You've forgotten how to judge correctly. Take a deep breath.
That were put out to justify that, which eventually collapsed. I think the only thing that troubles people now is they're just breathtaken that the government would still have the gall to throw at them the same lies.
Particularly when they see the same
Should. Okay, now. Yeah. End of story, by the way. Don't get caught up in that fevered, hyped, phony fucking debate about that piece of shit movie. Is it too sexist? And what about the movies? Are they becoming too... No, you're just...
government. Go to communist China and establish friendly relationships with them and economic, commercial relationships. A lot of trade with Russia. Yeah. And of course the secret is that these countries are wanting to at least come on an equal basis in the multinational and transnational banking.
Confused. You've forgotten how to judge correctly. Take a deep breath. Exactly. That's all it is. Satan squatted, let out a loaf, they put a fucking title on it, put it in a marquee.
Separation relationship, which of course cannot be done within the capitalist multinational system. They won't allow that. This is what the problem is.
The tragedy of all this is it's such a small interest in Washington that has control of our foreign policy. What they're doing against Nicaragua does not even help the United States economically.
Satan is shit, piece of shit, walk away. But is it too... What about the lesbian connotation? You're getting really baffled here. Piece of shit. Now walk away. That's all it is. It's nothing more. Free yourself, folks. If you see a piece of shit, say it and walk away. You're right. You're right. Not those fuckers who want to tell you how to think. You're fucking right.
Back to the Angolan experience, Gulf Oil and Boeing were outraged by what we were doing in our war because it was disrupting international commerce. As soon as the war was over, they were back pumping oil and selling airplanes. 8 years later, they're still saying, hey,
behavioral psychologists have come up with new views, not only of animal behavior, but of human nature as well. And these views all concern a process that we take for granted, learning, because we are all truly born to learn. Ironically, one of the most important
these Angolans, whatever their internal politics are, they're faithful, reliable business partners. And Gulf is lobbying to, you know, I told you before, right after the war, Gulf technicians were in there pumping the oil with Cubans guarding them to protect.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Very